And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot, here to tell you a story. This is an interesting book. Underwater and Underground Bases. DUMBs, deep underground military bases, right? And you wonder what, inflation's all about, right? And you wonder what politics, what's, Joey and Donnie, it's Madame Blavatsky, Well, the old crone told me years ago. She said, Al Bob, just tell them your stories. I said, well, they'll never believe them. And she says, you don't have to make them believe them, just tell them. Right? So that's what I've been doing. So I was at one of my favorite kind of breakfast spots. It's the remnants of what the old Holler store was, but it's all spanked up into the new rich people zone. So, but um, it's still the old. So all the old Holler people still come in. They don't spit on the floor anymore, but they come in and talk. And what's nice about the people who run it, they aren't the scum cockroaches who are from Texas and California and Florida and New Jersey and Charlotte, North Carolina, who just came up here and bought up everything to launder their illegal money, right? So pretty much, if you're a banker, you're a criminal. Right? If you're a lawyer, you're a criminal. If you're a politician, you're a criminal. Now, when I say criminal, I mean, look, we have a guy running for president, and he's 34 convictions of felonies. What does that mean? Right? Well, according to our mega Supreme Court, it means no big deal, right? So, and if you go back, the beauty of the WWW Internet, World Wide Web, is nothing gets lost. I was so instead of me doing a show from that place, showing you me putting food in my mouth. I was looking, I have over 2,000 shows, give or take, right? I went all the way back to the very first one. It's still there. It's like 6 years ago, give or take. I started in 2018. That's what it says. May of 2018. So 18 to 19, 19 to 20, and then add 4. That's 6 years, give or take. And there's some really great stuff there. There's images that you'll see nowhere else, stories that you'll hear nowhere else, things I kind of back up every now. Don't believe a word I say, but there's things in all those shows that have representation of the stories I was telling you. And I try and do that. I try to show you photographs, but I've had so many laptops, and I forgot what their passwords are, so I can't even get at them. I mean, I got them. I have to take them to my digital guru, but he's just gotten married, so he's breaking that in. Oh, look, someone is saying things. Let me get my reading glasses. Oh yeah. I wear long sleeve shirts. So the UV here for the last 3 weeks. It has been 8 and above, right? Hey, Mr. Jamie. Crone knows best. Howdy, Al. Thanks for the mail. Good. See, so now we're mail buddies, right? So you can get a hold of me and we can blabber away. I mean, people seem to think that they have to be short and sweet on the the live chat, but you can say whatever the frick you want as long just go nuts with it. You can leave more than just 6 words. You can leave a whole paragraph, or maybe two. Excellent, right? So anyway, if you've been paying attention, since let's say the Civil War, it's pretty much the same thing as what's going on now, right? It's distraction through blood, which is basically a shamanic sacrifice, a bloody sacrifice. And but the real sacrifice isn't blood; it isn't people's lives. That's just a thrill, right, for the demigods. But the real, relationship of intimacy with love's co-creation is what we're here to manifest, right? And people pretty much don't do that, because they're scared, they're insecure, their culture, their society basically treats them like dirt. That's why, for that 30 years or so when I was an itinerant scholar, I didn't focus on any singular thing because, why should I? you know? And it was just like, closing the door on whatever somebody might want me to go look at. So I was a, shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. And in the high table realm, that's what I call myself. On my business card, it says psychosocial, cultural, forensic anthropologist. Right. So I kind of left out the shamanic and the alchemist. So a shamanic motif is a worldview, right? And it's based on the larger picture rather than singular image. And the King James is based on a singular image, meaning the vision of Paul. Paul was the Don Draper of the New Testament, right? Because Mark, Luke, and the others of his crew, they were just parroting back the letters he was sending them, right? And he was a Pharisee, a Roman Pharisee lawyer, right? So he was litigating just the Torah, not the Talmud, and not the Kabbalah, because those things were for the high hippie holies, right? Not even the rabbis touch that stuff. You go look at Deuteronomy, Numbers, Exodus. They all talk about God describing what he wants his house to be like, what rooms he wants and where he wants to put the Ark of the Covenant, all of it, which is like, his little car, And so anyway, there's this thing called the code Tetley. I'm totally murdering how it's, but what's his name? Let's look. Let's go look what I was looking at. It's this place that they found. It's near Turkey, and it's like 70,000 years. They really can't tell. So here's a good one. Look at this guy.
Known as the Clinton crime bill, was written by Joe Biden, the Biden crime bill. That required me to cross over, get everyone together. Not no one's civil liberties were in any way jeopardized. I do have a record of significant accomplishment. The crime bill, which became known as the Clinton crime bill, was written by Joe Biden, the Biden crime bill. That required me to cross over, get everyone together. Not no one's civil liberties were in any way jeopardized. I do have a record of significant accomplishment. The crime bill, which became known as the Clinton crime bill, was written by Joe Biden, the Biden crime bill. That required me to cross over.
So, that's, nobody's civil liberties were. What are you talking about? He jumped the people in prison from about 1.3 million people to 6 million people, and 60% of them were black men. Oh, he didn't do anything. Oh boy, it was hunky dory. It was all. There is no difference between the Biden crime bill and what the Supreme Court just did.
Get everyone together. Not no one civil.
Rambling at times, mixing up words. That last question you heard about at the very top of the presser, mixing up, saying Vice President Trump instead of Vice President Harris. But I think, Anderson, what was most telling for me from this, you asked the question, did he assuage concerns? He actually himself acknowledged that he is still on a mission of trying to allay concerns, as he said. And I thought that.
So, you have to realize that this Joe B is not the original Joe B. That one that I just saw in a second. The Biden crime bill. It's not the same Joe because they're clones. If you haven't figured this out, they're clones. If you look at Donnie, the orange turd, you look at him from the 80s, right? The Donnie that we got now is a clone. There were about 3 clones cloned during the 10 years of The Apprentice. And that's what, Donnie was being apprenticed to being the clone president, right? And the people who are, running the show, which you don't know, you don't elect, you're not even close. It's not Billy Small Penis. It's not Whack Job Musk and Mr. X. It's not Coffee Joe. It's not any of the above. The usual suspects. No, Stevie, Big Apple. No, none of those folks are in charge. They're not. It's just, oh, I'm a trillionaire. No, not even close. Look at Elon Musk. Look at him. I mean, does he look, like he's a mental genius? No, no, none of the people that you see on this tube is anything close to being a human, except maybe me. And you can't tell. Don't believe a word I say. They're building concrete roads over human excavated areas and saying they aren't bastards. Yes. Meaning, why was the war in Syria? What was that about? Well, they blew up all of the amazing ancient things. I mean, the Buddhist temples, tons of things that people hadn't even figured out what they were. They're no longer there, between our bombing them, the Russians bombing them, and ISIS bombing them, they're not there anymore, right? And the same thing with Ukraine. Ukraine's culture, which was very deep and very important, is being blown away, right? And so Bekti Temple, that's I was looking for that. What was that? Let's see. Oh, preacher, she starved. Oh, here we go.
The only thing happened was the girls.
This is
That was the only thing happening.
These are the girls I worked with the Desperate Lawyers.
They were dependable to have a good time.
And they were smart.
They weren't self-conscious. They weren't trying to prove anything. We were just having always a good time.
Here's my buddy who was unbelievably self-conscious. He's trying to be a rock and roller. I got him this gig.
Good time, angst. Good time, angst. Good time. Anyway,
This was the early O's. This is Hollywood, Florida. This is a club I built. The guy had only $100,000. He inherited a parking lot, right? So I filled it up with sand and put. Oh, there's my sweetie.
Here's my sweetie. Ricky. She's a big time news girl now. But she was working a little TV station down there in South Florida. She went up to Orlando, and now she's moving up the. But she was the most sweetest, kindest, smartest. I met her at the Blue Door. She was sitting at her laptop writing her story. I had a bunch of books, and she said, "What are you reading?" And we started talking about French Impressionism and existentialism and religion, and she was just the best. She didn't care I was an old guy. We were just sweet on each other.
This is when we were living together. She had an apartment not too far here.
Waking up to breakfast. She always had a book in her hand. And a camera. I was showing her how to shoot. Yeah, we should get pretty close there. It's a story she was doing on a rich lady who had a farm for misused and abused animals. There they are. And this lady, she was somebody I knew from New York who was a disco queen. Ricky, she could just light anybody up. This woman, she wasn't doing too good. And Ricky could make anybody just smile. Yeah, this girl had...
Yeah, she had cancer, right? And Ricky, the last month of her life, she was working and everything, and she would go visit that lady. She'd come and get me at the Green Door, and we'd go over, and I would make her juices, right, and do massage. And Ricky would just talk to her and make her laugh, and it was... And so where Ricky came from was, she was a daughter of an Iranian colonel of the Air Force when the Shah was there. When it fell, her father, who's now her father, was a American colonel in the American Air Force, and we had bases there and lots of aircraft there. And when things were falling apart, Ricky's father and family couldn't get out because they were high important people, and they couldn't just leave. And they all died. The Ayatollah. And but when Ricky was like a year and a half old, and this was all going down, the Iranian guy handed Ricky over to her now father, Irish guy, red hair. Mother is also Irish girl. And so she comes from super well-educated Irish family, and she's Iranian, and she's unbelievably beautiful. And she kept, because of her family, she still remembered her family in Iran. They're all dead. She stayed Muslim, right? And she stayed who she was, and that was the beauty of her. She stayed who she was all the time.
Yeah, this girl had what can I say? Disco for 20 years, that'll do it to you.
A lot of cocaine. Here's me.
Here's me when I was big, really big. I was pushing 500 pounds in that picture. It was like, I'm like a third of the guy I was in that picture. She's Ricky. Here's Homie, my boy Homie, and his mom, Bella. Sally, the lawyer who started the Blue Door. And this is another place on the other side of Stewart. This is kind of almost near Jensen Beach. It said anything grows in Florida. And this was, well, these guys, she worked at Hewlett Packard. She was one of their high flying engineers, and he was a investment banker. And he was pretty old. He was 80-ish, and she was 50-ish, 60-ish. They were sweet. They were kind of, they had both made a lot of money, and they were retired. And they used to love just to hang out with me and all the places I hung out. I used to take them. I met them once in a restaurant. We just started talking, and they just would call me up and take me to breakfast, and then I would, they would be part of my day, and we'd go to all the places I'd hang out, and they just love that. All the young people, the different people, and there's me and Rick. She's such a sweetie. And this is the inside of the Blue Door. And this was a nightclub, and this nightclub was pretty amazing in that it was all the bands and acts they had were off of cruise ships. The guy had this bar, and he used to be a cruise ship guy, and it was pretty amazing. And there's Captain Sally with the red hair, and she was like, big time, super tanker captain. She was pretty amazing. And so was this girl. Gosh. Here's her mom hanging out with us. VIP room, and they were great. They were a great band. It's Captain Sally eating the bird. There's some tourists I stuck hats on. And there's the house I was taking care of. There was no furniture in it, but it was a nice house. It had a swimming pool. There's Rick. Always had a camera in her hand. And that's her buddy. Rick. She's married now to a weatherman. And she, like I said, she's moving up the ladder.
So,
no one owns the school or the hill. The hill and the school own us. And it will manifest everything you want, good, bad, and ugly.
here's Pete.
Here's Pete. They can get it out of your pocket that way. They can look like your guy. There's Mohandas.
There's Mohandas playwright.
Back in the day, where we used to have these.
And that's in Roanoke. And there were a lot of amazingly talented people. There still are in Roanoke. But it's a place that kills your creativity. You got something creative, it'll kill it, right? So Musk looks like a stoner. Yeah, he takes Ativan. I mean, I don't know, but he looks like he takes Ativan because he is following the path that Donnie did. Donnie was a cokehead and an Ativan, and that's why he's incontinent. You do that much cocaine, they cut it with laxative, so then it, basically lines every wall of your body, and so you just can't control your shit. Ricky captured the beauty of life in everything she did, right? She had because like I said, she was with the most Irish Catholic family you could imagine, and she stayed Muslim. From a little baby, she said, "No, I'm Muslim, right? I'm going to be like my family is dead. I love you guys to death." And her father and her mother both said, "Right, now it's not a problem." you know? So she had the most accepting of everything. So her roommate slash female friend was a stone cold hard ass lesbian girl who hated men. She had lots of reasons to, and I won't go into it. But Ricky loved me so much, and I loved her so much, and I was so, I was like, 60. Did I die then? Was it? No, it wasn't. It was 2008. So I was, what was I? 2008. I was 50. So I was 58 basically in that picture there of me and her. I was 58 to 60, right? And she was like 22. And when people would see us together, they wouldn't go, "Oh, he's a sleazy," and they would go, "Oh, they're in love." And the lesbian girlfriend was like, "Oh, they're in love." It was just amazing. Wherever Ricky went, it was just so. There's that picture of that girl behind us who was like really like a demon, right? And she just kind of came up the street and came into the blue door and tried to burst the bubble of the love, and she couldn't. And Ricky said, "Oh, why don't you sit with us?" And I was like, ugh. But Ricky was like amazing, right? And she was just being with her was like a great. That's what basically I stayed alive because the resident. So that was '08 when we were, a thing, and everyone, at the green door, the blue door, everyone, you name it, and everyone at Stewart, they just looked at, oh, they're just such a beautiful couple. Not like that guy is like 50 years older than she is, It's like, and just Ricky loved me. So I taught her how to use that camera, right? She was a writer. That's really what she was. She was a writer. But that camera was such an expensive camera. This was in the days when it was you had a camera like that. You could also make videos with it, right? Because it had enough memory. Had SD cards, and so she would do stuff. I mean, we would just walk around and things would happen around us, and she would shoot it. We go back to her place, and they had given her editing, a laptop. She'd stick the SD card in the laptop, and I'd show her how to edit. She knew all the computer stuff, and I showed her the skill of editing and telling this. And she could tell us she was a great writer, so and a researcher too. She went to college and I think at Princeton and got a degree in theology and library sciences, which in those days that was like late '90s. That was all about computers, right? So she was like pretty friggin' amazing, and she was just so sweet. She could, I remember one time, it was at a in Fort Lauderdale because we go down and visit my friend that I helped build that thing, and plus I'll bring some photos of I was part of the New Age community because I was part of the Theosophical Society and about 4 other esoteric entities, and so I was like notoriety there because everybody else was just forget about it, chump change, New Age folk, and so I had a couple of friends like Will I Am and a guy named Eric who basically he was about 27 and he was a really good set and lighting designer, and he worked for a large company that he did the Rolling Stones steel wheels thing. I mean he designed everything, so he was like me in the early O's, like I was in the '60s, right, and '70s. So um, it was it was one of the better times. So I've always had these little niches of the best of times, and there were no worst of times because I'd be with people. If really bad shit was happening, they would make it good. And I had my 3 guardrails of, doctor, don't get involved unless you have a workable exit strategy, and you're only going in to get the innocent people out of harm's way. Ricky would see something. I said, wait a minute, let's stay back here. Let's see it all. And we took a look at it, and we could suss it out in about 5 minutes, and then we'd walk in like gunslingers. But she had a camera, and I had 2 dogs, and I had my phone. And so she would intercede and talk the sweetness. I would be close enough, and then I said, let me read your, everyone was about to do something stupid, and I'd stop. Let me read your palm. And she would videotape it. She'd stand over there, and she would videotape everything. And then we'd do a rough edit, give it to her, by around 2 in the afternoon, give it to her boss at the TV station, and he would say, okay, because he was also the editor of the newspaper. It was owned by Hearst. So Hearst had the newspaper and the TV station. That was like in Fort Lauderdale, I think it was. But they had a studio because Stewart back in the day was it. So the newspaper was in Stewart, but it was for that area, right? And it was Hearst, and so so she went from sharpening pencils to being the on-air person out in the street to being having the chair. She did that within the 8 months that we were together, right? And then CBS or NBC saw her and said, "Oh, we want you to go to Orlando and be the person in the seat in Orlando." And Orlando was a big market, so she jumped up. She went from getting 28,000 a year to 70,000, right? And a house, and to this, and to that. And so I kind of helped her move, and she got enough money to buy her little house that she had been renting to own in Johnson Beach. So she had a piece of property now. And so for another 2 or 3 months, I was living in that house in the Funk side of not Stewart or Johnson Beach, but further south. And it had been a fishing village, and now it was like meth land. And it had beautiful properties right on the beach. I mean, that house was on the backyard was a pool that went into a dune that went down into the beach. It was and the guy wanted to hold on to it because he knew that sometime somebody would build a hotel there, and make $1 million. So I got to be there for free, basically. Right? And basically, and Ricky would come over, and be in that bathing suit. She would walk around in that bathing suit all the time, right? It was just, it was an amazing period, 18-month period. And that's what's my life. Every 18 months, I would be deep into something like that. And then it would come to a fulfillment. Like when she went to Orlando, that's kind of when things, changed. And my parents died, right? And so I had no real reason for being there. And the market crashed, and so we, William and his wife had the cash to buy that house that we were, renting to own. That was in Stewart, right? And so he got that, and I got to stay. That was a place I could stay, and there were a lot of places like that. My buddies who were in Port St. Lucie, the Rasta Boys, which was another 7 months. I stayed with them, right? Because I would get most of my work at that time was in Florida, mostly Miami. And when I was in Miami, I'd be in a really, really, really swank hotel or somebody's house and work for them for 3 or 4 weeks. And those girls were this one lawyer's office. They were lawyers, but they were legal aids, right? They weren't on the bar, but they were more sharper than the 2 guys who owned the thing. And so, we were a team. We were there were 4 of us, those 3 girls and me. And we were like the Fantastic Four. I mean, we could when we would go in, when they would put their power suits on, you know, and the four of us would walk in together. I looking like a bum, pretty. This was as cleaned up as I would get. I would leave the dogs in the hotel because the courts, unless you're blind, they don't want you to walk in with dogs. And so I was almost blind, and so that was about a 4-year period where I made ridiculous amounts of money for not really doing much, just kind of doing what I'm doing here, right? So I went back and looked at the 2,000 or so shows. Guys, you should really go back and look at that because there are videos there that give you perspective. And this is what the old crone said to me. She says, "Tell the story," and you don't. And I said, "But no one's going to believe me." And she said, "They don't have to. Just tell the story." And so, if you go back and look at those things, you will get a mind-screwing perspective of what's going on now, because you see the stuff that I was doing then and what's going on now, and it all kind of fits together, right? So, and you said you had little niches. Go back and listen, right? And that's the little niches. The 2000 and basically, so do what I did today, meaning I wanted to see how many, if I had all the shows that I did, and I just kept going back, and everyone that looked like, oh yeah, I remember doing this, I would see it. I didn't watch every one, and I didn't watch them forever, but I'd stop at, so those ones you see of Blue Door and Ricky, and I got a few more on there. That's, so everyone's so captivated by the Biden and Donnie and the wars and that stuff had been going on, right? And I still haven't found the thing. Bechtel Kempe. What's the name of that thing? It's like 16,000, more than that, like 26,000 years old. Yeah, here's the.
Where we used to have these lunches, talk about stuff. Because they look like they look good. They real good. They look good. They look good. Romney. Will be interesting to see where Romney's going. That was talking about Donnie.
Oh.
They're beneath you. Okay? And so there's the superior, the other, okay? The superior inferior complex that is engendered by people in some kind of way of being the other. Yeah. All right. So I think a lot of that, it's all right, like the Bible says. Don't charge interest to your brother. Right. Go over there and do it. The other guy. Right. Now, okay, to put it that way, I thought it was just not a matter of charging. No. It's all right. Not to charge you, my brother. Right. But that other guy over there, I'm a fucking. Yeah, right. He's open. He's open. That's fresh meat. And the Bible's giving you authority to do it. Do it. And thus is the outcry that the Bible is just another business plan by the elite to disenfranchise the masses. Here, read this book and see how you can fuck that other guy. And leave me alone. Right. Without guilt. Right. And that's what a liberal is. Someone who is racist but feels guilty about it. That's a liberal. Okay. They're racist and they feel guilty. But they'll still do it. They'll still be racist. They'll still not give you the job, won't let you move in the neighborhood, but they'll feel guilty about it. Yes. And that's the problem.
So that guy, he got a Pulitzer Prize in the 60s for a play he wrote, and he's living on the street. I mean, through that, he was living, I kept putting him wherever I was,
That's why I sold it to John, because I knew he would take care of it. It was my retreat, my warehouse. trees. That forest is dead. All the trees just keep falling down. And there's the biome. There is an interconnection. I can see it. There's the patio. Got the little hibachi burning. Gonna put on some prawns on the Barbie. There's Homie. But look at that tail. Rusted tail. Homie was like 20 dogs in one. I mean, he had all different kinds of hair and colors. He was like a calico cat. He's such a sweetie. Such a sweetie. He had the same lover, Dub, like Ricky. Such a good boy. He's on a friend of mine's farm now. He couldn't take care of him. He got too sick. And his mom, she passed. She wanted to be buried at the school, so she passed before I left. There she is. She had her first and only litter when she was 10. Here she is at 15. Only was about 5 in this picture. That's all they did all day long. They played. They had such a good time with each other. Homie would have made a great roller derby guy. He was always good at giving the person his butt. And Mela can always kick his ass, no matter how old she got. She can just take him out. Even though he was bigger than she was. Such a dynamic duo. They took them everywhere. That's why they were so good. If you want a good dog, you got to take that dog everywhere. That dog has to be part of your life. For almost 20 years, those dogs were my life. Face of that homie.
Yep. Maybe
Here we got our little chemtrails. So this has been sprayed out a few hours ago, and it's feathering out to cover the whole sky. The mornings would be crystal blue sky. The airplanes would come by and start spraying that crap, and it's just like spray painting the sky, and it's going in all of us. That is chemicals being precipitated through our sky, and we breathe that stuff every day. The airplanes don't fly like that. These aren't convection, contrails. These are chemtrails. And this was one of those. One of this. and then the wind blew it out, kind of feathered it down. See how there's an X? That's so the satellites can say, we did Section 8 over there.
And this was around 2010 that I made that video.
See?
How much battery do I have left? Oh, I got plenty. I got another hour at least. So that's kind of what, let's see. Let's go back to seeing, there's Rick. Oh, this is good. This is the Hope Center. This is me down.
So here we are on 11th Street, right? This was like in front of the Hope Center. This was the center, commercial center of the black community, right? Yeah. People you know? Yeah. Let's walk over to the gentrifying poster. It's a funeral lot.
A two-year-old kid shot himself in the head.
Ouch.
In Brew Apartments. And they had a funeral for him this morning. Little guy named Kobe.
Yes.
2 years old.
Ouch.
Shot in the head.
Did he do it just because he was fooling around with a gun, or?
Playing with a gun, shot himself in the head. But I always hear people tell me that angry people kill people. Guns don't kill people.
That's bullshit. No.
But I've never seen a 2-year-old angry enough to shoot himself
In the head. No.
And just for the record, they happened 2 times the same day. Both kids were 2. One was in Roanoke, and another kid was shot by his 4-year-old brother. Shot in the head. He was 2 years old, playing with a gun. Same thing.
So did you ever hear Gil Scott's Heron song? And he's talking about how the brothers don't need to carry the 9mm, that they can have respect without the gun.
It's around here in this neighborhood. These kids tell me all the time. I ask them why they walk around with guns. They tell me they'd rather get caught with it or without it. Or they tell me they'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So it's kind of the mentality around here. I had a birthday party over the Hope Center for a 13-year-old girl. I had a kid actually come out here and shoot 17 rounds.
For the birthday party.
She shot 17 shots over at my place with all these kids in there. Like that.
Right.
My window shattered there from the fragment of one of the bullets.
So let's go look at Mr. Garland's building. So this is John Garland.
John Garland is a developer. He's pretty good. He does really good work. He's pretty good developer. He likes to take old stuff and try to bring it back. So that's what he does. Now he's a member of the city council.
Yeah, but the old stuff is you buy low, sell high,
Basically, when you come into this neighborhood, you're not gonna buy anything. You can buy it low, but you're not
Gonna sell it high.
gonna be able to really sell it high.
Well, look at this place. This is not your average looking joint,
I mean, this is the thing. Like, I like to see people come to this neighborhood and try to invest in it. It's a good thing, but it's what you make it. And what we got with this, like I told you, there used to be groceries.
Right.
And there was a drugstore.
Right.
And there was a laundromat. And there was a cleaning company.
Yep.
And basically what I'm saying is, like, when you bring things back to the neighborhood, we're trying to bring back the neighborhood. They have this on Grandin Road. It's called a collab.
Right.
All right? And what a collab is a place where businesses can come in.
An incubator of business. Is that what they're going to do with this?
That's what this is. And what they don't realize is this didn't bring one job to the neighborhood. It didn't cure one of our needs. It did nothing to help this area at all. This place we're standing in front of, there's usually 20 or 30 people standing out here.
Selling.
7 o'clock in the morning to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, drinking beer, using drugs, selling drugs. So it's not too much likely for a business to even want to come in here, even put their business. If you notice, all the rest of the business have bars over the window.
Yeah.
You come here,
Right.
with this. And see, this is one of
They
the
got
bigger
bulletproof
problems.
glass. That's bulletproof glass.
I don't think Mr.
They didn't
Garner
need to put
realized,
bars. They could make it look good. And
put on the
the
side.
collab was a place where people would come in, get on a computer, and start their new app or the new this. Not hire anybody.
Degrees. Yeah, I'm like burning up. Yes,
Everybody's sweating.
I'm going to get in this.
What he's going to do is he's going to give them shaded
Yeah.
seats to sit on. On the side of his collab, we're going to bring a business into it.
Right.
And they're not going to work. And the biggest thing we're missing around here, we don't have food.
So what about this place? You know, the Quickie Mart, you know, that's not food. That's just beer, tobacco.
The only thing they really selling, like all of these stores sell food. They're your mom and pop store, whatever you want to call it. But what they do is, I can see this 50 cent.
Right.
Here's what you do with 50 cents. Got it? You need some water? I got some money to do. I'm going to do something you know, right?
So that was a prostitute. Lying in the sun. So this was 10 years ago or more, and it was a hot day, like it is here now. Right? This heat is just catching up. See, there was no food there. You know, it was a thing where you should have had chicken and this and that. What did he do? He bought a cigarette for 50 cents. He's trying to say she needs $5 to get the bus. And there is no bus there.
Where the bus stop at? Right there when the bus pull up, I'll buy you the bus.
He's invited. See, he's got a restaurant across the street. You know, the cafe. The Hope Center is where the buses would let all the kids off after school about 3 o'clock, and we would keep them there, like about 80 of them, until their parents could pick them up from work around 8 o'clock. And we'd feed them, we'd do their homework with them, we'd help them with whatever they need help. We'd play basketball. He had a football team, basketball team, baseball.
That's pretty much like what's going on. And you try to put a collab beside
Right.
that, when you put that together, you see.
And who is collab but people who have money to invest to begin with?
Right.
You know, not people with no money.
So that's why I have issue.
The girl is like,
I ain't gonna give it to you, though. My wife will kill you. You want some food for real, man?
Yeah, give him food. Give him some water.
and she doesn't come in.
Okay.
So here's his restaurant. And he had really good vegetarian food and smoothies. And so the rich people would come, stop, and get their thing, and I would hit them up for, hey, how about some money?
Like this, Victoria.
Today, governors from across the country will gather in Salt Lake City for the second day of the National Governors Association summer meeting. State leaders meet twice a year to discuss how they can better work together across party lines. Today's meeting will feature a discussion with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He will be there in person in Salt Lake City to address officials there. Joining us now, the incoming chair of the National Governors Association, Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis, and the group's incoming vice chair.
We're all socially separated.
Except I'm too close to that.
You know, 6 feet is the exact space that facial recognition software works. When you're like, I grew up in New York and you walk on the sidewalk, I mean, we were like people on top of you, right? It doesn't work there. So you have to be that far away for that camera to get a good shot of your face. Where you are. So the real deal is, power has always been this way, right? It's nothing new. It's just technology is makes it a little more, would you say fascist? You know what the word fascist means? It means a corporate state. And that's what we are. We're not a republic. We're not a democracy. We are a corporate state.
Credit to Graham Hancock, who brought this ancient site to international attention in his best self, as it covers an area of approximately 22 acres. In fact, to put its size into perspective, that's equivalent to 90 football fields combined. And besides the fact that it is the oldest, largest megalithic site on Earth, it is arguably the most mysterious, as it is the very definition of prehistoric, in that we have absolutely no idea who built it, how, or even precisely when. All we know is that it was buried approximately 11,600 years ago, and possibly intentionally, leading many to theorize that it could be a time capsule of some kind. And based on everything that we were taught in school about the emergence of civilization out of Mesopotamia around 6,000 years ago, the discovery of Göbekli Tepe in 1995 totally upended the conventional view of the rise of human civilization, as prior to its discovery, historians would have said that something this old and sophisticated couldn't possibly exist. However, the mystery does not stop there, as this site is comprised of an estimated 200 sophisticated T-shaped pillars, a vast majority of which are still buried underground, but have been identified through the use of ground-penetrating radar. Many of these pillars reach heights of nearly 20 feet tall, in some way as much as 10 metric tons, or just over 22,000 pounds apiece. And notice the 3D carvings of animals and other various depictions on these pillars. In other words, this was carved with the highest level of difficulty possible, as it would be far easier to etch a depiction into stone rather than carve around the stone to shape a 3D object. Make no mistake, this is not some primitive attempt by cavemen to play with rocks, and it could not be more clear that vast planning, logistics, and high levels of ingenuity went into creating this enormous project. Again, the largest of its kind on Earth. So, again, who created this, how, and just as importantly, why? What adolescent prehistoric civilization could possibly have achieved this, and what would motivate them to do so? And this also begs the question as to how they transported hundreds of these pillars, which again weigh as much as 22,000 pounds or 10,000 kilograms, which only becomes more curious when you consider that this site was created well over 5,000 years before the known invention of the wheel. Think about that. Now, here are a few more details that you should know about this site, which will become very important for what I'm going to drop on you later in this video. The unbelievable part that will startle any enthusiast of ancient history. As I mentioned, ground-penetrating radar has potentially identified an estimated 200 of these pillars, and only 72 have been unearthed in the 29 years since the excavation began in 1995. And this site is comprised of 20 known circular sections or enclosures that have up to 12 pillars each, and only 6 of these 20 enclosures have been excavated. However, not even fully. And this does not include a series of square and rectangular compartments, as well as whatever else lies beneath the ground that was not identified through ground radar, as it simply cannot see everything the deeper you scan. And this is just what we see at the surface, as again, the areas needing excavation covers over 22 acres. Now, I must point out something important, which is that if you followed this topic for the last several years, you would have likely have heard Graham Hancock and others repeatedly mention that only 5% of Göbekli Tepe has been excavated, again, as confirmed through ground-penetrating radar. In fact, that 5% figure was first reported in 2008, which was 14 years after excavations had first started. And by the way, we must all give credit to Graham Hancock, who brought this ancient site to international attention in his...
Yes, Graham's a great guy. And I bet you dollars to donuts within 3 or 4 years, someone will blow that place up. And so we won't be able to study it because they're not really moving very fast. They've only unearthed a seventh of what they think is there, and they don't really know what's totally there, right? some will show up, and then the anti-terrorist groups will come and blow it up from bombers, and kind of like, do you ever see that movie or read the book Fahrenheit 451, right? Or the book Brave New World, or 1984, or seen the movie The Hunger Games, right? So pretty much that's where we're at, right? But it don't matter, because we are just, the stuff we think we know is just the tip of the iceberg. And like these guys here, with their underground tunnels, right? And here, let's see. I'll read you a little. Let's see, what are you guys saying here? Let's take out some of this stuff here. Let's see. Let's see, not bad. Drink up. Chili Hill. Sage. I have this nice little tea I make with super hot cayenne peppers and burdock and a few other things. And when I drink that, it cools me down like I got an air conditioner inside me. The nose for the electric. You know what my electric bill is? $14 a month. I don't really use it, Don't have a refrigerator, don't have this. Some lights and some fans. And when I leave, I just hit the switch, turn everything off, right? And when you move the air over you, it's like I have this really teeny weeny, teeny fans that run on 12 volts. And I have USB extension cords all on inside of the man cave. And so I have all these little teeny fans. And it's truly amazing. They make no noise. They're the same kind of fans, or they don't have them anymore. But back in the day, when laptops or columns or your own personal computer were first coming out, desktops, they had fans inside them, right? And they were quiet, and they moved a lot of air because those suckers made a lot of heat. And so I have a bunch of those fans stuck all over the place, and it moves the air. And so, like, when I wake up in the morning around 5:30ish, I'm cold because it has gotten, the sun hasn't been irradiating for the last 8 hours, and so everything is, the air is moving, and it's, I have to go, throw my my blanket over me, or I hit the switch and I get up. But I have no air conditioning. Like I said, my electric bill is between $14 and $24 a month. In the winter, it's a little bit more. It's about $45. That's why I have electric blankets. I like it cold in the winter, and I'm good until it drops below 10 degrees centigrade. Boy, inside the house. And I turn on the heat. So, Jamie, do you take retracted? It says retracted, message retracted. How hot at night now? Oh, well, last week when it was really like in the 90s every freaking day, we had one day in 100, which is like never. Normally here, right now, mid-July, 80. 78 to 82, right? Last 3 weeks it's been in the 90s. We had a run 2 weeks ago, 98 to 100. Last week we had 2 days, 98 to 100. We're going to have a bunch of days starting Saturday, maybe 98 to 100. And at normally during the summer, it's maybe 64 degrees at night, right? And it was the last 2 weeks, it was 80 at night. But I live in a holler, so it's moist. It's dank, right? It's dank. Kind of like Ireland near the bogs down where they cut up the stuff for to burn. In those bogs. Yeah, okay. So anyway, the and that's why I bought this piece of property in Florida and south where Fish lives. Fish, you know what a swamp cooler is, right? It's a box that has a light spray of water and a fan, and the fan blows through the light mist of water, and it cools you down. That's a swamp cooler. That was in the 40s and 50s before air conditioning became ubiquitous. But last time I went to Texas on a thing, for the lawyers, I stayed in a hotel and the office and the guy's house. Every one of those buildings had windows that were sealed because they were super air conditioned, right? So it was super insulated, right? Well, Florida hasn't, Mr. Rothschild, once he bought their electric everything in the 70s, he hasn't put a nickel into the utilities there or anywhere in the United States. That's why our utilities are totally whack. And that's why I came here, because our utility is owned by the people. We are a whatever you call it. Yep, they are all right, but AC is better. So, unless you don't have electricity. What I'm seeing that's going to happen is sometime this summer, someone, how the Chinese kind of flitted the balloon across America 2 years ago, right? Well, if they had a device, an EMP, it's not even an nuclear weapon. They have, electrical devices that can make an extreme magnetic pulse, right? And that pulse can fry every unprotected semiconductor within, if it's like, up there at 200,000 feet, and it gets, let go, let's say. So this thing went across from Canada, across, Washington, across, Illinois and all of that, and kind of came down and popped out around South Carolina, right? So if it was kind of close to Salt Lake City or St. Louis, and they pulsed it, that would have fried everything in Canada, all of the United States, all the way to Ireland and parts of England and parts of France and Italy and Mexico. No electricity, period. You'd have to redo everything because the pulse would cause all the transformers to, overload extremely and, basically burn out all the transformers and a good chunk of the transmission lines, right? So if they do that, let's say, in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, sometime between the Republican convention and the Democratic convention, no electricity, right? No TV, no radio, your car doesn't start, no water, no air conditioning, no refrigerators, no hospitals, no fire trucks, no airplanes. Good luck with that. It'll be just like, you ever see the Twilight Zone, where your average American family, it's a nice summer, and this tree-lined streets, kids playing baseball, everyone's having a good time and having cookouts, and little kids with a lemonade stand on the sidewalk, and then they're listening to the baseball game on the radio, and then 5 or 6 of the houses don't have electricity. What happened? And they go over to their neighbors, say, "You got electricity?" "Yeah, I do." "What happened to yours?" "I don't know." And then another section of the neighborhood goes out over there, and these guys go back on, and it keeps doing that until everyone. And this neighborhood is like, it's the 1960s, so there are a few black people who are really nice. They're not really black people, and there's a few Chinese people. They're nice, and they're all bourgeois. They all, either work at the factory with each other, or teachers or lawyers or doctors, or not rich, but upper middle class. And then this stuff goes going on to the point by the time it gets dark, all the lights go out, and they start blinking on and off like Christmas trees. And then the people just lose their shit and start killing each other, right? And then it's a crane shot. It's the sun is going down. The lights are blinking on all over the place. It's a crane shot. It pulls back up, and then it keeps going. And then you see this flying saucer, like, just on the edge of space, and there are these guys there, and they are laughing hysterically and going, this is going to just get the greatest ratings, meaning they're using Earth as a reality show. And this is like, 64 or 68 or whenever Twilight Zone was. And the beauty of Twilight Zone, every one of those ones were amazing. There wasn't a bad Twilight Zone. But this is one that really stuck in my mind. And that's what's, going to happen to us kids this summer. Watch out. Here it comes. Don't believe a word I say. Right now, go talk to some people in Texas, I call my sister won't listen, because I told her when it started to get hot. Well, this is Texas. It always got hot. I said, Meg, 2 winters ago, you came inches close to all Texas losing its electricity, and everyone freeze to death. Oh, it didn't happen. Texas is great. Well, half of Texas has no juice right now. Oh, it's the kids coming back. Anyway, how are we doing for power and time? Oh, we're doing good. Humidity, yep. See, and normally we don't have humidity up in the mountains, but we've been having it this summer. And people don't even like it. I go to church and all the old people look like burnt hot dogs. I found these little things of sunscreen. No. Oh, that'll cause cancer. Oh, like the sun one. Oh, well, let's see in the sun so I get a tan and look at a little burn. Underground is the answer. And they're down there in a big way. And that is one of the businesses that Elon Musk bought about 10 years ago. He bought this. From the U.S. Air Force. So this is at out there near Kirkland Air Force Base, right? So that's a pretty big, that parking lot there is good enough for 300 cars, right? This is the underground facility half a mile down, right? So this is this, and this is underneath this, and this is 4 times bigger than that. Let's see. You can't get this book anymore. Oh, and they have this. This is a grav, train, right? And they put this across all over the world, right? And there used to be a TV show in the 70s called Super Train, and it was this. And they had another one, Time Tunnel. Go, let's see. Let's see. YouTube, 1970s TV show, Time Tunnel. And this was the Montauk Project. This was Brookhaven National Laboratories.
Irwin Allen was one of the most successful TV producers and creators of popular science fiction fantasy on TV. He had 2 successful shows on air, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and Lost in Space. he came up with another exciting idea for a show about time travel. The Time Tunnel was a very costly production for 20th Century Fox. After extensive preparation by Allen, The Time Tunnel premiered on television from 1966 to 1967 and lasted for just one season. It was loosely inspired by the 1964 film The Time Travelers. This production was said to be the favorite of Allen's out of all four of his shows. The show starred scientist Tony Newman, James Darren, and Doug Phillips, played by Robert Colbert, who are in charge of a top-secret multi-billion-dollar US government organization known as Project TikTok. The installation is 800 floors underground below the Arizona desert. They invented a time machine known as the Time Tunnel, which will allow people to visit anywhere in time and space. Assisting Tony and Doug are Dr. Anne McGregor, Lee Merriweather, who is an electrobiologist, and Dr. Raymond Swain, John Zarimba, an expert in electronics, and Lieutenant General Haywood Kirk, played by veteran character actor Whit Bissell. United States Senator Leroy Clark, Gary Merrill, comes to investigate the installation to determine if the $7.5 billion being spent is worth it. He sees the project as a waste of government funds. He gives them an ultimatum to send a person through time or this project will be cut from the budget and cease. Tony volunteers to be the first one sent through time, but Doug turns him down. Tony defies this decision and sends himself into time. Doug follows shortly after to rescue him, but they both are trapped in time together. The senator returns to Washington with the promise that the funding will not be cut off from the project. The general is left in charge with Dr. McGregor and Dr. Swain scanning and watching Tony and Doug's every move as they travel from one time to another as they try to get Tony and Doug back. The stage is set.
Right? So, Jamie remembers it. I was 7. So 60, I was like 14. See, what's the other one I was talking about? Time Tunnel. Land of the Giants. That was it. YouTube TV show, Land of the Giants.
If you enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see on my channel and would like to support me on Patreon, click on the link below. Irwin Allen was really one of the greatest producers of popular science fiction fantasy television, especially throughout the 1960s. At the very young age of 6, most kids watched Sesame Street and Play School, while I watched Land of the Giants, Lost in Space, and The Time Tunnel. In fact, I think that Irwin Allen shaped my childhood. One of my main memories of Land of the Giants was that giant hand, the awesome special effects, and that wonderful music by John Williams. Land of the Giants was the 1-hour-long sci-fi fantasy television show shot entirely at 20th Century Fox Studios and premiered on television on September the 22nd, 1968. Lasting only 2 seasons at just 51 episodes until March the 22nd of 1970, and was created and produced by Irwin Allen. Land of the Giants was Irwin Allen's 4th television show and was set in 1983 and follows the adventures of the crew and passengers of the Spindrift. The ship crash lands on a mysterious planet. They find out.
Kind of like Gilligan's Island. Let's see, what other ones were there? What time is it? Almost 4:42. Yeah, Quantum Leap, that was a good one. Land of the Giants. Oh, The Invaders. Yes, let's look that one up. YouTube TV show, The Invaders.
Now let's get this straight, Mr. Vincent. You say that a member of the top echelon of government is involved with these people? Yes, sir. Is he one of these aliens or some sort of a fellow traveler? We don't know that yet. Would you mind telling me who he is? Technical advisor to the National Security Council. Arthur Coy? Arthur Coy has eaten spare ribs at my house. He's played leapfrog with my granddaughters, and he skunned me out of $24 at 5-card stud last Tuesday. We happen to have facts. Oh, nonsense. In the last few weeks, our tracking stations have been picking up evidence of increased saucer landings. In every instance, Arthur Coy happened to be in the exact area where these landings took place. Mr. Scoville, I know your reputation, the work that you've done for the government. But do you know what you sound like? Of course we know what we sound like. You think this is fun for us? Mr. Vincent, I have a lifetime of experience with people who know that the enemies of the Republic are hiding under every bed and behind every curtain. You have nothing to lose if you give us the benefit of the doubt, if you listen to us. If you don't listen to us, if you don't do anything about this, you'll have to live with your conscience. Mr. Vincent, don't you lecture me on my responsibilities. You sashay in here with this outrageous charge against Mr. Coy and expect me to swallow it whole? Mr. Coy is a loyal American. I will not subject him to any witch hunt. You and your kind are the menace, sir, and I seriously question whether you are the sort of man our government ought to give its defense contracts to. Good day, gentlemen.
Oops. Oops. Anyway, see what I mean? It's kind of there. It's in the TV, you know. This book you can't get anymore. I bought about 5 of them at a when was this thing? It's probably done in the O's. When was it done? 01, right around 9/11. After 9/11, you never saw this book again. Secret tunnel system. Oh yes, I was going to tell you what. Oh yeah, here's a picture. You know, Elon Musk bought this. See those guys down there? This is a machine that just bores into the earth, and it can go around the world. And it, you know, there are laser beams on the front of the thing, and it just turns it into not dust, but energy that it can be sucked out the rear and then turned into concrete that gets sprayed behind it. It's like a worm that kind of goes through an apple and shits behind it. And Elon Musk bought all of these from the U.S. Air Force. So they have something else that's better, but he bought these. And he bought these about 10 years ago. So he's been doing a lot of underground stuff. And so, you know, this book has picture after picture of. And I told you that story about the underground facility in New Mexico. This is it. You know, that got blown up in, right? And my nickname was the dead guy. Right? And there's pictures of people right there. This is how big that facility, you know, underground by 2 miles. Look at this tunnel. It's like, you know, 60 feet in diameter. Now here's picture of another one of those gizmos. Secret maglev tunnel system. 1985, Robert Salter of Linton Industries presented a paper for tunneling underground transport and macro engineering conference sponsored by, and these are the kind of conferences I would be brought to, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Deep Underground Transcontinental Tunnel System. Let's see. National Maglev Institute Initiative. And so they had, after this conference in 85, they completed in early 1990s, there were very interesting multi-agency national maglev initiatives, Army Corps of Engineers, Renewable Resource Division, Department of Energy, nuclear weapons guys. So those guys were really, Department of Energy, they were the guys who really developed this kind of tunneling technology to put their nuclear weapons and their nuclear secrets and their nuclear stockpiles so deep underground you couldn't get to them. Of course, technology developed for public works projects, like water, the big dig in Boston and the water new reservoir pipeline from upstate New York to New York City. Secret Maglev, the National Maglev Initiative, yielded the following lengthy report, which appeared on the U.S. Bureau of Transportation statistics in the year 2000. Year 2000 has come and gone, but of course, no such system is publicly recognized. But the budget for it was $6 billion. No, $8.6 billion. Let's see. And the contractors were Bethel of San Francisco, Hughes Aircraft, Division of General Motors, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Draper Labs, Foster Miller, Delru, Cutler, Boeing Aerospace, Morrison, Coding, General Dynamics, General Atomics, AYA, Associates, Concepts, Features, and the list goes on and on and on. So, if they were just going to stud at maybe one or two, but there's like 30 different corporations here and, $8.6 billion. And this was, published just before 9/11. Let's see what other great pictures here. The Glamour Challenger, by Howard Hughes, where they were trying to pick up the Russian submarine. But this boat, in reality, what it was designed to do, here it is, was that it was there to bring the equipment to tunnel under the sea and build dams under the sea. That's, underwater and underground bases, right? So, and the U.S. Navy, they're the most, naval intelligence is more, it's been around since, 1776. CIA has been around. Though you have to realize that the CIA came from the OSS, and the OSS originated with Ben Franklin. He was our master at spycraft and disinformation. And when he went to France, he was publishing this flyer that made it look like it was coming from Philadelphia, and was going on and on and on how the British were losing. And British basically won every battle. and then they left, right? Submarines, UFOs, closing thoughts. Finally, I want to say something about many submarine UFOs that have been seen over the years, going back for decades. UFO witnesses have seen unexplained objects leaving and entering the world's oceans and seas, bays, rivers, lakes. In recent years, submarine UFO activity has been observed. And now, why are they saying this, right? UFO submarines, because people would say, I saw this thing zipping through the sky and it looked like a gigantic cigar. And what it was that they basically, anti-grav is not a big, difficult thing. There is a type of mercury, it's called red mercury, and you can either synthesize it or it's on the moon in great amounts and other places too. You get that, you process it, you put it into a cyclotron type of device, and you get it spinning up really, 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 really fast. And then you put it into a very exotic electromagnetic field, and that spinning mercury around the casing, it propagates scalar waves, which then mix with other waves that are in that process, and it produces magnetic gravomagnetic waves, which basically null gravity to the device itself. So you have this device inside of a ship, its field goes outside of the ship, maybe 10, 20 feet, and you can have as big a ship as you want. You could levitate an aircraft carrier, right? Like Gerald Ford, biggest badass, newest aircraft carriers we have. It has like 5 or 6 big nuclear reactors on board, enough electricity to do this. They could fly that sucker. So anyway, they had submarines, and they sewed the thing about World War II when it ended like this, right? And they had such overproduction of tanks and jeeps and cars. They left all the jeeps and tanks. Why we had the Korean War, why we had the Vietnam War, why we had the wars in Africa, it's because we put all that stuff, instead of bringing it home, the expense of bringing it home would have been more. And so we left it where it was. And so in the Pacific, we kind of gave North Korea and China all of this hardware because they were our allies fighting the Japanese. And that's what caused the Korean War. It gave the North the ability to have war, right? And it gave the ability for China to militarize. And so they had all of this hardware, and so they had all of these submarines, right, that were still in America, meaning we were just finishing up, and we had hundreds of these things because we were mass producing them. And we had gotten this technology for anti-grav, so we would just take that box, stick it on the submarine, and what better thing to send into space than a submarine that can lock itself up, right? It's designed to withstand the deep pressures of the sea. Well, space has no deep, it's just a vacuum, which is not it won't crush that submarine. And you put a anti-grav field around it, and so nothing can, you try to shoot at it, and the bullets will bounce off. You shoot a missile at it, bounce off. Go out into space where radiation from the sun's really nasty, it can't get through that field. And our LEM, when we went to the moon, we actually had, how it could get there and come back was it had, anti-grav on it. Right? Once the Saturn V threw it up into space and got us on its way, the anti-grav, and that was the device in the LEM's service module, the hydrogen, thing that turned, water and this into air and electricity. What do they call those things? It's a term for it. But anyway, That was the anti-grav device, and that's why it kind of blew up. Anyway, so this stuff is like right in front of our face. And so it's so, with the World Wide Web, I mean, like I just kind of flitted through the World Wide Web looking up stuff, and there you go. Notes of source and dates. Okay. So if you go online and look this book up, Underwater and Underground Bases by Richard Sauder, Sauder, PhD, right? And his other book is Underground Bases and Tunnels. You can get this book if you go online, right? Amazon or, some place that has books that, but you'd probably have to spend $100 or more for this book, right? Here's Kathleen. Hey, Kathleen. Some say Musk is the usher of Mark. Those people, flat earthers. Well, the thing about Musk is he's just a poster boy. All these guys are just poster boys. I mean, I have seen, I've researched all of them, right? They don't know squat. Yes, micro penis Billy Boy. He was coding as a youngster, blah blah blah, but not really, And so, and his daddy was one of the major businessmen, executives of Pepsi. So he had, deep pockets to start Microsoft. So all of these guys had money behind them, right? All of these guys had been in schools and places that they have been pruned to do what they were since they were a child. I was one of those guys, right? I just didn't want to go along with the plan, I'm kind of like Groucho Marx. He was well known for saying that he was never going to join a club that invited him to be, he didn't want to be part of anything that somebody wanted him to be there. So that was my motif. I would be there, as long as I could be there on my little, how I wanted to be there. And at a certain point, I would say I quit. Like when I was working as a shrinky boy for a house, a bunch, a group of pretty well-known shrinks that had a big practice, and I was doing all their bona fide work and research, but I was really working for Brookings at the time. But that was, I got into that, and that was my little lab. I could do all kinds of stuff that Brookings wanted me to do with the guys that they wanted me to do it to, and they got tax write-offs, blah blah blah. And I got really good at it, and then they started handing me all the stuff they didn't want to do, marriage counseling, this, that, or that, all the stuff that, and I could get people out the door within 2 or 3 to 5 visits, and that I would give them a toolbox. That was what I would call it, a toolbox, so they could work out their own problems. And my boss said, you were really great at this, and we really, really are impressed, and we're going to give you a raise, and we, we're thinking about inviting you to be part of the group, as a partner. You can be one of us. And I said, what? He said, you can be one of us, had the big house, the Jaguar, the fancy wife, you can be one of us. And I said, I quit. And the guy was like, what? Because you just spent, 3 or 4 years getting all your bona fide together. And now, you really do this job well. And we're offering, it took us 20 years to get where we're offering you right now. I said, I quit. I don't want to be like you. You're a scumbag. You want me to put these people on the hook for the next 20 years because they got great insurance. No. That's why you're tempting me with being a partner. Well, fuck you. You're paying me nothing now. So if you give me bonus, even if you like. Right now, I'm making $250 every week. So what are you going to give me another 500? So I'm making 750. You know, I'm over there working as an electrician too, and I'm making 1,500 a week. You know, so eat shit and die. So I'm only doing this because I at first wanted to learn about this. Then I got a bunch of people I was taking care of, and I felt empathetic for it, and that's why I'm good at it. And then I wanted to see what you ratbags did as well-known psychiatrists. Well, you had signed. I said I signed nothing. I could blab about this all I want. I signed no, you know, non-disclosure anything. You know, this ain't my first rodeo. But I'm not gonna say shit about you guys. You're gonna eat yourselves alive. I don't have to do nothing. See you later. Bye. They're also flat earthers. Well, you know, Fish, nothing is what it seems to be, right? And there are certain things about our solar system that are very strange and lead, you know, certain people to believe that there's a flat Earth. Like I was telling, you know, this Christian person, they were telling me about in the Bible how the firmament, and what the firmament was, you know, most of the water on the planet is above us, not below us, and there's and yet there's more water under our feet than there is in the oceans. The oceans is like the oceans, the lakes, the rivers are like the minuscule amounts of water, right? And so, uh, but there is a firmament. And I was telling the story. I think I've told you guys the story. When I was in Australia, hanging with the Aborigines, the Wallamajiri out there near Ayers Rock in what was it called? The Gordon? No, not the Gordon Ridge. That was in Tasmania. Oh, it'll pop into my mind. But over there by the Ayers Rock, and you know the movie they made where Dingo ate my baby. I was there at that motel when that happened, and what it was the CIA of Australia killed the kid because they wanted to get rid of all the dingoes because the dingoes were the spirit animal of the Aborigines, and as long as those dogs lived, you couldn't kill the spirit of the Aborigines. So they wanted to get rid of the dingoes. So anyway, I was there when that happened, and we saw it all happen. Then the cops showed up, and we were leaving. You know, we were leaving as the cop cars were showing up. But the people who did it were there, and you know, they had. You know, we saw it get done, not by a dingo, by right. And so when the forensic people showed up, and these guys who killed the baby and left you know, dog prints, blah blah blah, did it such a bad job that forensically they had to blame the parents. So go watch that movie, right? The dingo ate my baby. Right, so we were right there. Don and I were right there when that was happening. And Ayers Rock was a trip. It's like this gigantic rock the size of Long Island or Manhattan, and it has its own gravitational field. And don't believe a word I say. Why do you think we have all our secret bases there? You know, there's Wall Missile Range. You know, there's what's the name of the place over near Broome? Oh, it'll pop into my mind. But that's where all the Nazis are. You know, they didn't give us a car. We had to take a bus to where we were sent, and it was one bus, and like you'll be on it, and all the people on the bus were all these old Australians who were about, you know, they were all on oxygen. They were about to die, and they had worked themselves to death so they could retire and have this little. Instead of doing it when they were young, like we were, they were anyway. And so the bus would stop for dinner, and at a little town or a ranch house or as they call them, the station. You know, Donna would go out there and start taking pictures. And the bus driver, okay, we're going to leave now. And I said, wait. My wife's not back yet. Well, you know, I'm going to leave in 5 minutes. She's not back in 5 minutes. I'm going to take your luggage out and drive away. Well, the next bus wasn't like, you know, 20 minutes later or tomorrow. It was a week from, right? So we missed the bus about 7 times. And each time we were left in the most amazing places, like Alice Springs. That was the name of the place. That is a really squirrely. Let's see what Google says. about. That's why I met Stan Deyo, right? Let's see what these guys say about Stan Deyo. Underground bases in Alice Springs, Australia. Pine Gap is a joint United States-Australian intelligence gathering facility located about 12 miles southwest of Alice Springs, Australia. The base is also known in Joan Stefan's facility as Pine Gap or Rainfall, which is in the middle of a desert, right? Like, this is what it looks like. It doesn't look like it's a rainforest to me. And those little white things are all antennas. And again, this is above ground, and what's underground is 20 times bigger than that. Let's see, Pine is a joint United States intelligence, surveillance. So it's making you think that's the NSA. Not really. People also ask, what is the secret base near Alice Springs? Why it's a CIA base? See, it's not the CIA, it's other folk. What is Alice Springs? Let's see, everyone has an opinion. Whoops. Stan Deyo from Australia. Nope, didn't. Stan Deyo. None dare call it conspiracy. It don't want to go there.
Navigating to Standale.
Stan Deyo, the author. Yeah, Google's like, no. Stan Deyo, the author.
According to Wikipedia, Stan Deyo was a radio broadcaster, writer, teacher, and founder of the Human Awareness Institute in 1968.
Yeah, that's our boy. But they don't, that's the guy I met in Australia, right there, that boy. Art Bell, Aliens in Australia. Here's Art. He was an interesting guy. There was only one Art Bell, and they murdered him. I mean, he was in his 60s when he died. Let's see. No, died 72. So I'm almost 3 years older than you are, Art. And he died like that, right? West of the Rockies, Nevada, Sheriff Radio Show, host of Art Bell, dead 72. You believe in aliens? Okay, let's see. Nope, won't let you see that. Anyway, so it the internet's great. They'll show you certain stuff, but you want to get more particular. So anyway, there's a lot of strengths. And so that's what I'm saying. So we're living with this tribe of Aborigines, right? And I almost had it on my tip of my tongue. It was Gordon Ridge? No. Anyway. And so, Ayers Rock was over here, and Alice Springs was over here, and right about over here was where these guys were, right? And it was a big valley, mountain range all the way around, right? And when we showed up, I mean, these guys had no cell. This is 1977, right? And they had no, but they were waiting for us. by the side of the road. And we missed the bus like 7 times. So if we had been on time, we would have been there about a month or so before, or 2 months before. They were waiting for us right by a garbage dump, right? They were just hanging out, drinking beer. And so, and they always had stashes of beer, and you never, how'd you get that there? And it was always cold, too. That was the other amazing thing. So, anyway, this was a tribe, the Walamachiri, that in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, the Canadian mining oil company, the guys who are putting in the tar sands oil pipeline into America and the natural gas thing over to Oregon. Basically, these guys found, went up there, found coal, iridium, titanium, uranium, right? And cobalt. And there were about 900, Walamachiri, and they just went out there and shot them all in the head. Bang, 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 bang. And there were 9 of them that basically were out picking berries when this happened. And when they came back, there were all these bodies, out in the middle of the desert. They didn't bury them. They didn't say, "Oh, we get on the bus. We're going to take you to some place nice," and just shot them in the head right there because no one else is going to go out there. And by this time next year, those bones would be gone because super hot. The birds would eat all the flesh. They'd have 2 or 3 of these floods, and they were floods like you couldn't. The firmament would fall, right? So we go out there, and we were sent out there to do an ethnography on these guys to show how the government has been taking care of them, and because the government wanted to have the Olympics there, and everyone knew that the Australians were just scumbags. So killing, they killed more Aborigines than we killed American Indians. You'd say, how did they do that? Anyway, so, and don't believe a word I say. You go check it out. That's your homework assignment. And it was all guys like Reginald Ansett and Mr. Fox. What's his name? All those guys, and they too were just. And so you'd say, why did the English send people on the other side of the earth? It's like sending them to Mars, right? The cost, right? And these guys were rich people. And what it was they were rich people who were total sick fucks. Like Jack the Ripper was the Queen of England, Queen Victoria's cousin, right? He was the surgeon of the court. And he's whacking prostitutes. And that was fine. He could do whatever he wanted. Prostitutes, no big deal. But once he started going after, the merchants' wives, well, they had to get rid of them. They couldn't, they knew who was doing it. They knew who Jack was. And they couldn't just, take him away. So they just sent him off to Australia. So Reginald Ansett, a very, very powerful family in England. Rupert Murdoch, same thing. There are about 5 of these families that came, had all the money, all the power, guns, just took the place, right? So, all right, Canadians do it in the 60s and 70s. And we're there at the late 70s to show how great the government's been taking care of the Walamachiri. And they don't say anything about that, right? They say they were kind of killed by a flood because they had these amazing floods. And so when we were heading there, we went through Sydney and then Melbourne and then Perth. And then it was Perth where we stopped. And they had a big university in there, and they had the guy, quote unquote, the expert on the Aborigines and these guys. And we're going there, and he goes, "Oh, there's no sense for you going there. They're like children. They won't talk to you. They won't let you document anything. They don't have a written language. They can barely speak English, blah, 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 blah," right? So like I said, it took us like almost 2 months to get from Perth to there because we kept missing the bus, which was great because we had all these other adventures. It was a prelude to John Birmingham throwing me out of the school all those months, right? So anyway, and we met some great people and had just the most amazing adventures. That's how we got waylaid in Alice Springs, and that's why I met this guy, who said, "You want to see what's in?" I was in the Rundle bookstore there, and he was in there. He was looking at his book, and And so anyway, so we finally get there, and they're waiting for us, and they take us back to the thing. And I was smart enough when we were about a week out from getting to them, because our stop between Alice Springs was Ayers Rock, where we were going to stay there for 2 days. There was a motel and a station restaurant, and the old people that was their big thing, to go visit Ayers Rock. Anyway, so we did all that, and they had caves all the way around, and they looked like they were burned out with a laser beam, and there would be a fire pit, and there would be a cave painting on the wall, and you could tell the tourist guy had started a fire, and he used the charcoal from that to draw a thing of a guy going after a kangaroo. It's like, but when they went off, I had this little itch to just sit there and meditate. When I meditated and went into state, that wall turned into what is known as looking glass. And I just saw an animated image of civilizations in Australia, far as that space faring civilizations in Australia, way, 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 way before Jesus, right? And so, Kathleen, let's see, you got it. Deo, Stan Deo, that's it, Stan Deo, right? So go look up Stan Deo. Stan Deo, yep. So Stan Deo, that's it. You got it. Sadly, bases, bones, yep. We trust you. So anyway, we show up, and so I have a Bolex film camera, and how much juice do I have left? Oh, 17%, enough to tell the story. And so I've been outfitted, by the people in Melbourne who want me to really, that's why I'm sent. Don and I are sent there, because we're documenters. I'm an anthropologist. I'm a, forensic anthropologist. I'm a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist, right? So, we get there, and they were waiting for us, meaning the spirit told them that we were coming and we were righteous. And so I had a Bolex and a number of rolls of film for the Bolex, and I had a changing bag, and I had these lead tins, right? And and a station wasn't that far from us, and like maybe 40 to 60 miles from us, and depending on where we camped out. And there were about 4 places where these, depending on how hot it was. So we are, we get there, and Polaroid had just come out with the SX70, very Star Trek, it's flat thing, it unfolds, and the ones, they had ones later that had, the little sonar thing, so it focus it itself. But the ones I had, you could adjust the f-stop, and you could, it was like an SLR. You could see what you were shooting, hit it, right? And it was great. And so they gave me 10 of those and a whole case of film, like 270 little packets of film. And so there were, 3 girls, 4 guys, the lady with the baby. So that's like 7 people. Anyway, so I gave everyone a Polaroid and 4 or 5 packs, and they went out and just, they shot pictures of stuff, whatever they wanted. I just showed them how to use it. I didn't tell them anything else, right? And they went out. Anyway, so they came back, and they had some great pictures, right? Just, right? And so I also had this camera that Polaroid gave me that made negatives, and so I gave them those, and I let them have the pictures, and I kept the negatives. And so Polaroid wanted all this stuff back. So each person who took a shot, I said, pick out the 5 pictures. I give them like, 20 shots, right? I said, pick out the 5 you really like best. You want to keep. That's like really pulling your string. Did that. I would pick out the 5 I wanted, and then the rest would go into the tribe's little history, photo book. So anyway, so one day I was asking, so they took to us like socially, because like they kept saying, "You don't smell like white people," and that's because before we were about a week out. I said, "We're not going to eat no cheeseburgers, no chips, no nothing, no sodas, no nothing, because there were insects out there. They bite you, you're dead in 3 minutes, and we're 70 miles to even anything, so no." So we just drank water and ate fruit, right? And so we did that. And by the time we got them, we were not smelling like white people, right? So we never got bit, right? And I always wore a long sleeve shirt and had an umbrella. And it was always covered. And these guys said, "You're a smart white guy." Anyway, one time we were talking, and they showed me everything they had. And so the guy who was the quote unquote expert said, "Oh, there's, they have no written language." Well, they did. They just never showed it to the white guys. They showed it to me. They had this library, a big cave. And they had these things called iron trees that were really straight. They cut one down, they cut it in fours every season. They would etch their written language onto that. They let me photograph everything. They let me make films of it, right? And the old guy, we would do walkabout. And we would just walk out there. And I had a big canteen, and I had my umbrella, and I had my little thing that with the map and where things were, and my camera, and my Bolax, and so anyway, we're out in the middle of the desert, right? It's like 10 miles in any direction to wherever the hill is to go up to the top of the hill, and mesa, right? So we're walking along. It's a beautiful sunny blue day. There's a little breeze. It's actually not that bad. It's we wouldn't walk about out there at the height of the heat, right? And we'd always get up early in the morning. We'd put in about whatever miles we were walking, somewhere around 3 to 10, and we would stop at a place where, when it flooded, the water would go underground. There was so much water that it would dig these like underground like rivers, right? And because the sun wasn't hitting it, it was still damp down there, and there's still a little water running. And we would go down and hang out in those, and then by the time the sun is like 3 p.m., we get up and walk another till dark 30, right? And that was kind of how it was. So anyway, it's in the morning, and we're kind of looking for the place to go get out of the sun. And he just stops. I'm looking at him, and he goes, "See that mesa over there? Do you think you can get on top of that in the next 20 minutes?" And now this guy, no watches, no sense of time whatsoever. He goes, 20 minutes. He knows what 20 minutes is. And I go, "So what are you talking about? You don't. We've had all these conversations about time, and you said it's irrelevant. And now you're saying, can I get up there in 20 minutes? And he goes, "Listen, we can have this conversation, and we'll be dead in like 40 minutes. Or you can start running as fast as you can to get up on top of that thing in the next 20 minutes. And he just turned around and took off. And this guy's like 100, because he was there, he was 10 years old before white people even showed up. That's how old this guy was. So anyway, he is running as, like, I couldn't believe how fast this guy is running. He is motivated. So I go, uh-oh. So I'm like running, and I'm like 27 years old, I guess. And in 77, I'd be 27. Anyway, I'm running as fast as I can, and I'm carrying my stuff, and it's whacking me upside the head, and bing, bang, boom, like, Carrot Head would say. So anyway, I get up there, and it was a beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. And it's like maybe 10. So it's not really super hot, but I am like sweating. Why did you make me do this? I'm gonna die. And he goes, "No, turn around." I turned around, and where we were standing, there was 20 feet of water. And it wasn't rain. The water was just coming out of the sky, just like Bible describes the firmament falling in Noah's ship, right? And it was just doing that. So when you hear about all these big floods in Australia and it's because of global warming, not really. I mean, the English detonated their only hydrogen bomb in the Wallam missile range, and so it took out all of the ozone layer. We used hairspray to, put little holes in our ozone, but they obliterated theirs with that hydrogen bomb. So every white person I knew in Australia is dead of skin cancer. So anyway, so we so turn around, I look at it, and was like, and that's so the Flatiron people, the Bible talking about the firmament and Noah. This is kind of what it is. So what we are told what things are, and not really. Carrot head, yes, Donnie. So anyway, how much juice do I have left? Oh, my laptop hates it when it's in the red zone and it just cuts out while I'm doing a show. So that's 2 hours and 6 minutes. Well, that's a lot. So, okay, I'll do another one tomorrow if I can. Did one earlier today. No, I didn't. So I did 3 yesterday, 2 on my phone and 1 on my laptop. So, and they're up there now. And the one, you go take a look at the one of the gnome land, the birdhouse where I make the birdhouses with the gnomes. The Gnome Boys. Love you guys. Talk to you later. And anybody, Kathleen, you want to talk to me? Get a hold of me at the dudeawake42@gmail. Anybody wants to get a hold of me, have a mano-a-mano conversation, dudeawake42@gmail. And, like this show, subscribe, hit that bell, tell other people, and go look at all the other shows. Go all the way back to, just keep going and zipping by and looking at what it is, and that looks interesting. Don't watch every one, just kind of zip through them, and because you put your little finger in the thing and go whoop, and it'll zip through 20, and you'll see the pictures. When it slows down, you can read the titles, and if anyone catches your fancy, go to it, right? Okay. And leave some. It'd be nice if some people made some comments about these shows, because people have. Yes, you guys do the live chatty, but most of you guys, don't look at that. You don't leave a nice long comment. How much juice do I have left? Let's get them down there low. Let's see. Secret squirrel. Yep. Yep. Anyway, I gotta go. Flat earthers. Okay, kids, I love you all. Bye.